this is how it started. Ellie is learning place, and she is a young adolescent retriever with some pretty serious fear issues and reactivity issues. And she's a little nervous to new people, but we became friends very quickly. We're doing place patterning, call it figure 8 patterning. I'm just getting a feel for her. You know, how much leash do I need to use, how much body language, things like that. And very quickly, we get into some repetition. So I'm really just kind of feeling her out right here. But we're going to get into a repetition, a groove of place and let's go, place and let's go. I also use break sometimes if I'm wanting to teach break. But for the purposes of this, keeping it simple, move when I move, stop when I stop. So I'm right there with her every step of the way, leash and body language, telling her what to do. She's just on slip leash. That's all we're using. So, place, and it's basically she moves when I move, she stops when I stop, and I'm doing just a figure 8 with the bed. The turns are very small. They're supposed to be. We pause right here, make sure I get a loose leash, and a pause before I say place and move. Now, sometimes I will do this faster paced, kind of depends on the dog, sometimes slower. Right there, I took a big deep breath. I have to remind myself to breathe. And I think it's really good for you guys at home to do that too when you're working with your dog. And you want to do several repetitions, like 5 to 10, and then start to move around the dog. That way you can see how they do with spatial pressure, moving in, resetting, things like that. We start to incorporate calm food work with her. She can be a little nutty with food, but she's also with new people. She's not, she doesn't behave the same way. She can be a little standoffish sometimes. And so food was a really, really good for us. Now, I'm only using food for her staying on the bed. That's it. She's a little older and very energetic. She'd rather follow me around than stay on the bed. So, as you can tell. So I'm only using food for when we do the blocking, that spatial pressure work, and she stays there, or for a down. Now, the first way I introduce blocking is, see, the dog's already settled, and then I get in front of her, and I take a step back, and then I start to work my way around, and I use the leash and moving in to reset the dog. Now, sometimes I can only do one step, pause, but she was picking it up very quickly, and I'm also seeing how she deals with the blocking. Some dogs, it's too much pressure for them to move into them, but she's doing great with it. And by pressure, I mean that spatial pressure, stepping in. Some dogs with new people, it's too much for them, maybe even with the owners if they're sensitive or not used to it. So it depends on the dog how firm you move in, but they do need to start to understand what spatial pressure means, but you might have to just use leash resets, and I have an example of one of those coming up. So the second way to proof these resets is you just continue walking when you say place, and then you use leash or leash and body language to reset. There you go. So that's an example of just using the leash. So again, I pause, say place. I keep walking slowly. Then I step back and use leash guidance as I repeat place or say no and repeat place. It depends on the markers you're focusing on, the words you're focusing on. In the beginning, I like to just repeat place. And then I repeat that movement. I walked forward again once or twice. She didn't budge, so then I work my way around. I like to hold it like that so I can slide up and down the leash easily. So the dog is on my left. There's another one I use blocking to help me with that because she's doing better with it. So I'm holding it, the loop, in my right hand, and then I just have it slipped over my thumb with my left so I can slide up and down as needed to reset her quickly. And then when she's solid, food.